honorary member of the Aeronautical Society of India, National Defence Academy, Indian Rocket Society and Cricket Blues. Rakesh Sharma is one of the most inspiring guest venues of KLF's platform. Welcome to the 4th edition of Kerala Literature Festival, sir. G. Madhavan Nair. He was a former chairman of ISRO, former Indian Space Research Organization and Secretary to Department of Space, Government of India. He entered ISRO in 1967 and donated his contribution to the Indian space research industry. He won several awards such as National Aeronautical Award, FIE Foundation Award, Bhuratna Award, etc. Retired from the post of chairman, G. Madhavan Nair is the owner of the firm belief that the study of science is in the mother tongue. Welcome to the 4th edition of Kerala Literature Festival, sir.
Once again, welcome Madhavan Nair sir and Sri Rakesh Sharma to the session. We have a beautiful function here. This is today is Rakesh Sharma's 70th birthday. So we wanted him on that particular day, and I'm glad that he came on that particular day. Thanks to Madhavan Nair sir also for that. And happy birthday, many, many returns of the day, sir. And we are really privileged to have you. And may I request you to cut the cake along with Madhavan Nair sir. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Happy birthday to you.
I want to thank all of you for making this such a memorable day. Thank you very much for this thoughtful gesture. It has been more than sweet. Thank you very much, and we are happy to be here with you all today.
Sri Ravi, Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma, distinguished guests, my dear friends. It's a very, very unique day for all of us. It's a strange coincidence that happens to be the birthday of Sri Rakesh, and he could celebrate in this historic city of Calicut. His family also is here, so I wish all of you a very long life and very happy and productive life ahead. Well, indeed, I think when DC Ravi told me that there is going to be a literature function, a festival here, I was wondering what space has to do in this event. But after seeing this crowd here, I am more than impressed that not only literature, the science and technology also attracts the attention of the people. I can see a lot of young faces, so that's a good sign. We are looking for a lot of youngsters to venture into the realm of science and to take up the challenges for the future. Well, I think today our discussion will be primarily focused on the space-related activities, and we are extremely happy that a national hero and a pioneer who has traveled to the space and lived there for 7 days and returned back to Earth. And normally you know that the space journey conditions the human body in a much better way. That itself will add to the health and strength of Sri Rakesh. Okay. Now, you know that India, as far as India is concerned, today we are in a turning point as far as the space program. Prime Minister has recently announced that we must be doing the manned space mission as quickly as possible, and he has set a deadline of 2022. It's going to be a real challenge to achieve this. We have the huge rockets which is required for carrying a manned capsule to space. That is the GSLV Mark III, which has been recently flight tested. That can be got ready for that mission. But the major challenge is going to be in making a livable capsule withstanding the environment of the space to start with, and also the severe conditions during the launch phase, and again the severe conditions of re-entry and recovery. So there are going to be a host of technological challenges ahead of us, and I'm sure the country will be able to take up that and achieve the goal set by our national leader, Prime Minister Modi ji. Now, looking back to history, India had a late start in the space program. About 20 years later, compared to the USSR or the USA, they were converting the military rockets for the space exploration, so on. Though we have had a start 20 years later, today we have caught up with the other developed nations in the space arena, and we are in par with the technological capabilities compared to Russia, Europe, China, Japan, these countries. So we can say that we are one of the major players in the space arena, and certainly it is going to be the future for many of the Indian scientists and technologies, and certainly the space benefits have to be used for the benefit of the common man. Well, I will dwell on it maybe slightly later. Before getting into that, 1980s, that is a time when we were building satellites, taking to Russia and flying it. Our first remote sensing satellite, Aryabhata, and later Bhaskara, they were launched like that. Similarly, for our communication purposes, Intelsat satellites were built in USA and launched with the US launch vehicle. That's the time frame in which the erstwhile USSR came forward with an extended hand for cooperation, space cooperation. And at the time, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi ji was there, and she has taken a bold decision to have the program, to have our Indian astronaut flying in space. I would request Rakesh to elaborate on that event a little bit more.
Thank you, sir. If I may take a minute away and get rid of my jacket, there's climate change happening inside the jacket.
It's near the beach, it should not lead to a tsunami.
Yes, so as you had just mentioned that the Indo-Soviet space flight, the Soviets, at that time it was not Russia, it was the Soviet Union, and they had offered this flight to Mrs. Gandhi, and you perhaps know much better than I do what the background communications and discussions were, but I was quite happy to be the beneficiary, so to speak, of that initiative. And really speaking, I think it was an offer which was made well before its time, primarily because India at that point did not have a manned space program. And I think the reasons were more geopolitical than Hindi, Rusi, bhai bhai. So it was more than that. And therefore, but having taken that, given the fact that Mrs. Gandhi and before her, Jawaharlal Nehru had, an eye for science and technology, and they thought that was the way to bring up our nation and put it on the fast lane. And it did serve that purpose. So her initiatives in atomic energy in Antarctica and space, the kind of funding which kept coming regularly without any disruption has really helped our space industry. And today we are here. So the space flight as such, what it did was that it gave an opportunity for a whole lot of youngsters in that generation, and I'm talking about 35 years ago, precisely 35 years ago, and it brought the technology of space beaming into the living rooms of at least those folks who owned a television at that time. My own family had not owned a television at that time, so we later on saw the VHS tapes. But I think it did fire the imagination of the youth, and it gave a chance for our scientists to design the experiments, because here was an opportunity to perform those experiments in microgravity. So it was an opportunity which was very well utilized by ISRO and the scientific community. DRDO was also involved in it, and we designed those experiments, and I performed them, and the results came back. And this is how it all started, and the training and all was done in Moscow, and I really benefited from that, and I have some idea of how that training is imparted.
Whenever we talk about the astronaut Rakesh Sharma, Sare Jah Acha, that rings in our ears. How did you get that instantaneously?
I was given to speaking the truth, and like every other astronaut who first goes up into space, the first thing astronauts do is they look for their own country, which is exactly what I did. And I must let you know that it's only now that our country from the earth is beginning to look slightly better thanks to Swachh Bharat. But from space, the beauty of our nation is that we have a very long coastline. So you can see the color difference between the land and the sea, and the various shades of blue as you're approaching the shore. And from there, when you go towards the northeast, because that was the track of our spaceship in orbit, the Salyut, you get to see the coastline, and after some time, the plains, the Deccan Plateau, which looked brown. Then from the left window, you can then see Rajasthan, the deserts of Rajasthan, and within a few seconds, then you go up further northeast and you see the Indo-Gangetic Plain, which is absolutely green, followed thereafter by the forests of Assam, which are deep green, and then you see the Himalayas laid out, absolutely looking purple from space, because the sunlight cannot get into those valleys and the snow-capped mountains. So our nation looks absolutely beautiful from space, and this is what I was conveying to Mrs. Gandhi, and through that program to the rest of the countrymen, that we belong and we are blessed to belong to a country which has everything, which has a coastline, which has got deserts, which has got mountains and forests, and it's a wonderful sight.
Well, subsequently we had a lot of remote sensing observations of space. Initially we had a remote sensing satellite IRA series, which could hardly discern the objects about 1 kilometer diameter. But the technology has grown to such an extent. Today we have sub-meter class resolution. That means a small Maruti car which is going on the road can be identified with the image which is taken. Of course, it is just not for the photography or the thrill of it. We want to put to use for the common man, how to benefit them. The agriculture is one area where we have served very well. You know, the areas where the proper cultivation has taken place, how the growth is progressing, whether there is any attack of pests or insects are happening, and what is the proposed, expected yield from those places. So such information is become part of life of every villager too. Again, coming to using these observation pictures, the climate change you are mentioning, that's one major input derived out of that. But most practical one is with respect to the disaster management. You know, the pictures taken from 36,000 kilometers away, they are about 50-60 meters resolution. But that is sufficient to identify the cloud formation, the cyclonic formation, how they move about, and what is the probability of it hitting the land, and which location, maybe with around 20 meters. So this information is broadcast in advance to the people, the district people as well as the villagers, and the warning is taken by them, and they get evacuated to safer locations. So in the case of a cyclone and heavy rainfall, etc., this has become a very, very powerful tool. The Earth observation system, satellites we use, and also the communication, instantaneously connecting the entire country through the satellite. So this has been put to use on a day-to-day basis. Now, talking about these images and its reaction, I remember when we conceived the Chandrayaan mission, you know, we were on the ground, but still we wanted to go to moon. And Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister at the time. We made this proposal, and we very patiently listened and more or less agreed for the proposal. Then in a public function like this, he was addressing the people. He said, Madhavan, it is a good idea to go to the moon, but you know, from here it looks so beautiful and pleasant, and even beautiful women's face are compared with the moon, etc. But once you go near that, I don't know what you will say, but it is true. When we went near, 100 kilometers nearby, and it is full of potholes and moles and whatnot. And seeing that picture, you will no more call your beloved moon face. So that's the kind of experience we had. But you know, these are some of the adventures we had. You know, okay, India is a leader in applying the space technology for the common man and day-to-day life. Every walk of life today is affected by one element or other space. I talked about the disaster management. DTH, what you are getting, the way up, the satellites are beaming hundreds of channels to your rooftop. Then comes the remote communication, you know, villagers. They are not having any communication means. Even today, about 35,000 villages are not having any means of communication. Those are reached out through the satellites. So like that, plenty of applications. But keeping all those things in mind, still ISRO has been spending a little bit of efforts in understanding the science. And the moon mission is one of that. And I am very happy to say that our Indian spacecraft, when it was going around the moon and taking the images, for the first time we could announce to the world there is water on the surface of the moon. So this is a fantastic achievement. You know, just looking back, American astronauts, they brought some samples from the moon and it was analyzed in the NASA laboratory. A little bit of traces of water they could see. But you know, somebody brushed it aside. No, it must be sweat from the astronaut's hands. But we had the fortunate or the luck to go. That again an accident. You know, the instrument was designed to look at the minerals which is on the surface of the moon. But the manufacturer who made the sensor, it is slightly wider range and it could look at lower atomic number elements like water and so on. That was not intended purpose. But when it went there, that became handy. That is a sensor which picked up the presence of water on the moon. So sometimes accidents like in space happen. Now the human space flight we have now going in a big way. And there are two opinions. There are some people say, why do you want to waste so much of money for such an expensive program? And the risk involved is very high. Do you want to do it? Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah. Well, yes. Whenever I have addressed audiences, whether mostly actually from the media, these questions always come up as to whether a poor country like ours can afford to spend so many crores of rupees for an activity which essentially is only to raise the prestige of the nation. But I think they are not looking at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture really is, the question is not to ask whether this money is well spent, whether these investments are justified. I think what we need to see really is what is the return on that investment. As Dr. Madhavan Nair has just mentioned, that there is hardly any of export conflict into outer space. Star Wars will then truly become a reality. And it is a reality which we really should not hope to see in anybody's lifetime, not our own and not our children's lifetime.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, you must have seen some advertisements in some websites, etc., offering land on the moon. But I must tell you, none of us can own a specific piece of land on the moon or Mars or anywhere. There is an international treaty which binds the nations and their responsibilities. And there is a specific statement, the outer space, including the outer planets, should be used only for peaceful purposes. So that we will continue, I hope so. And except there are some violations that will happen. And people will try to see the military angle and military potential, so on. Other day, one child was asking me in a school, can we shoot a bomb from space? Well, imagination is good. Theoretically, it is possible. But we will never do it. That is unethical. So we are bound by the peaceful application of outer space, and we will do it. Now, you know, one thing, the space we have, India especially, was concentrating mostly on planet Earth. And of course, a little bit on the moon and Mars. The moon, the second mission is going to take off maybe within a few months. That will have a unique feature of having a lander. A robotic lander will be there, and it will, a platform will move around and pick up samples, analyze and send back the data. This is to confirm whatever remote sensing data we had, and that's going to be the logical step. Now Mars, yes, we have sent a probe and taken very accurate pictures, and some scientific data also has come. Why are we looking for all these things? Because we have the unanswered question. The whole universe, where it began, where it is, and where it is going. It is unanswered. I think 99% of the questions associated with that are not, there is no answers to it. Now, observing from the ground, there are a lot of limitations. There are cloud covers, dust cover, and so on. So it distorts the signals which are coming from outer space, and we may not be able to have a close picture. So these platforms which are around the Earth can have such images in the visible band or in the microwave or in the X-ray, gamma ray, and so on. So that is going to provide very valuable information about the galaxies, stellar constellations, black holes, so on. So this is searching for the fundamental truth, how all originated. So this is something, the exploration which is in front of us. For that, the satellites.
We all need to collaborate with our individual strengths and then go out there, because it doesn't make sense, you know, tomorrow you're going to go to Mars and you're going so far away, and once you land on Mars, to turn around and say that, you know, I'm an Indian or I'm an American, it loses its meaning. We are going to be people from planet Earth. We're going to go as Earthlings, and naturally, whatever we get out there should be for the greater good of humankind back on Earth. I think that's the vision we must work towards.
That's really great. Actually, we have no option but to travel to the nearby planet and then see how best we can make habitats and so on. But the technological challenges involved in that, the expenditure involved, enormous. One nation by itself may not be able to take up all this load. So naturally, instead of replicating the efforts, so we can have collaborative efforts with other nations to establish such for the future. To give a small example, today, even the biggest rocket which we have today, with that, if you want to take a meaningful tent on the Mars, about 25 missions are required. We have to send loads of material, equipments, technical equipment, and the supplies, start, so on. Mars, as you know, Moon, of course, is extremely difficult. There is a vacuum all around. Water, yes, they are available in plenty holes, but transported water from hole to there is going to be a difficult task. But still, every element which is required for human survival has to be carried from the ground. So that's again going to be expensive. In the Mars also, the very thin atmosphere with carbon dioxide. With the carbon dioxide, you cannot live. So you have to separate oxygen from that. We have to carry equipments for that. Again, the temperature extremes, you know, something like plus 160 to minus 150, that's the extreme temperature. So how to make sure that air conditioning and all is done properly. So all these equipments has to be carried in the early missions. Then finally the supplies which is required for a few months. Again, the fuel which is for the travel back to Earth. All these are going to be required. So that means the first step is you should have much larger rockets than what we are having today. See, US, they have some program to make 100 tons orbit in one stroke. And today's newspaper, many of you would have read, this SpaceX has come out with a rocket which can take off from here, go to Mars, deliver goods and come back. It's a great concept. If they evolve like that, yes, step by step we are moving forward to the target. But these technological challenges are very many. So one has to really get equipped for that. And we have to build up bit by bit. And things are not happening overnight. Even the earliest the touchdown on the Mars may be 2030 or that kind of time frame. And of course, with the pace at which India is going, we should be able to par with others and contribute to such planetary exploration programs as well. Now, one thing, in all these areas, India's uniqueness is the entire technology is homegrown. We did not get even a proper textbook on rocket or satellite. Our engineers would have gone and visited some of the laboratories, have seen something, but that's all. But to build from scratch to this level, that is a human effort. The innovation which is done by the Indian scientists and engineers. Certainly, that is one area which probably we are looking for the young generation, the youth, to come up and take on the challenges for the future. Unfortunately, there is a little bit of gap, and how to bridge this gap is something which is worrying us. First of all, the money which is coming from the industries like IT or management area and other things are huge. So most of the bright youngsters, they turn towards that, not on fundamental sciences. See, if you want to get into such field, a strong foundation in science, physics, mathematics, chemistry, biology, that is a must. Then engineering and related topics, and how to use this knowledge to innovate and find new ways of doing things. Better, efficient, cost effective, more reliable, that type of designs has to evolve. So there is a very huge gap in that area, and the youngsters should come forward to take up these challenges. I don't know, you have any suggestions to attract the youngsters to this side?
Well, I think it's a wave. What we've observed is that initially, say in the 60s, absolutely everybody wanted to be an engineer. Talk of 70s and 80s, everybody wanted to get into information technology. So the next wave, I would like to inform the young generation, is really space. So please gear yourselves, prepare yourselves to be future ready. Otherwise, you're going to have this wave pass you by. So I think that is where the future lies. A lot of activity, a lot of careers are going to open up in that arena. And I think you must future-proof yourselves and be prepared to be relevant technologically in the coming years.
Well, that's a way forward, and I'm sure. Okay, we have another half an hour. Instead of our talking, let's listen to them. If you have any questions or clarification, please come forward and with it to the mic.
Yes, sir, I do feel privileged to be here to hear you. I'm a professor with university. I teach Urdu literature. I teach Iqbal. When I am teaching Iqbal, I was referring your name. Why? Because Iqbal's poetry has traveled into a space. How? Indira Gandhi has questioned you, Mr. Rakesh, how India is looking from there. In reply, you told that Sare Jahan se acha Hindustan hamara. Then I want its confirmation, sir, please.
I gave you the reason why I said what I said, because I was speaking the truth. She asked me, how does India look from there? And I told her, it's the best sight there is. And of course, I was using Muhammad Iqbal's eternal words, because it describes India perfectly, and I stand by that today. So India certainly looks beautiful from space. How to make it more beautiful, more relevant, it's up to all of us. How to make it, not only visually, but substantially.
Well, I would like to add, I'm on the ground, I have not gone to space. But seen the pictures from space, plenty of them. But more than that, the ground reality. You see, last several years, the transformation which has taken place in the country. Beautiful highways have come in place, and many of the cities which are a heap of garbage, it has been cleaned up. They look so beautiful. And more than that, you look at the paddy fields, the wheat fields, and the type of agriculture, the forestry what we are having. All these things are, really unique, and we have grown substantially in those areas. So certainly, I can also vouch that the Sare Jahan se acha in many respects, not only in the practical natural phenomena, but also in industries, our economic conditions, living standards, and so on.
If I may come back to your question and Muhammad Iqbal's immortal poem, I would urge each one of us here to read the words of the entire poem. And it is so meaningful, and it is so inspirational, and I think if we can follow that, all of us together will be transforming the country.
Good afternoon, sir. Earlier you were talking about how we have to go and explore other planets, but right now looking at how Earth is the environment and how global warming and things like that are going on, don't you think we should first see, it is our responsibility, we are all like part of the mess, so don't you think we should like fix the mess first over here and then think about exploring like that amount of money and everything that we can use, where nations can come together and do something? Isn't it better we do something here first? And because isn't it selfish of us that we are here, we've ruined Earth enough, and like we are concerned about humanity, but also there are other species, everything on Earth, and do you think it's fair that we ruin Earth and then we find our way through to Moon or Mars or wherever, but what about Earth?
No, yeah, I think that's a very good question. And the way I would answer it is that it's a fact that we have ruined planet Earth, and we've done an exceptionally good job, and we continue to do so. But there is a learning, from all this as to how we should look at development. Sustainable development should be our aim, not just development. If you focus only on development, then all these problems occur. The consumption of natural resources which is not sustainable, the pollutants which we are putting into, which is driving climate change into the atmosphere. So here is a model when we go to settle outside of planet Earth. These are the learnings we must take with us. And the mistakes that we've made here, we shouldn't make there. But to answer your question whether we should first fix Earth before we go, I believe that the way technology is galloping today, we cannot afford to do things sequentially. We have to do things parallelly and learn to not to make the same mistakes that we have earlier made. So that is our opportunity to improve on what we have already done badly. Yes, it must go on parallelly, and like he said just now, the changes are occurring, people are thinking different, but what do you do if Trump withdraws from the climate change protocol? You know, so that is awareness is what we need to build up. We need to recognize, we need to go back and get back in touch with our old culture where we used to worship nature. I think that's what we need to do, and that is what will make this planet Earth sustainable, and we'll be able to live here long enough.
Oh, in fact, space is doing a lot of what you call work for maintaining the environment. See, we look at the space platform from which we are getting continuous images, the multispectral bands and so on. So from there, we were able to precisely identify the extent of ice melt which is taking place in the poles, the extent of warming taking place on the ocean, and also the carbon and so on. There are spacecraft which is going around which can pick up the carbon dioxide component in the atmosphere, the dust component in the atmosphere, aerosols and so on. So these are all the result of our own. Now once we know that these things are happening and where is the origin and how it propagates, propagation is by the natural phenomena. Now the origin, if we know, we can attack those. See, for example, all of us now realize that the burning of haze in the Punjab or Haryana region, etc., that is the one thing which contributes to the fog in the Delhi and other metros and so on. So probably we have to tackle the source. So like that, we derive a lot of information out of that. Again, in maintaining the forest, the greenery is a good thing for carbon. So that we have to encourage. But unfortunately, quite often these things remain on paper. People don't implement that. They become emotional rather than practical in implementing many of the corrective actions. The scientific study based on the global look at the planet Earth is helping us to tackle this climate change problem in a much bigger way.
Hi, good afternoon, sir. Happy birthday to you. You are such an inspiration to the entire mankind, and it's an honor to meet you. So my question is regarding the youth attraction. You were speaking. Am I audible?
I didn't catch that.
Okay, youth attraction. See, in NASA in Florida, you can go there and visit the spacecraft. They even give you an experience, the launch in a simulator. You might be knowing that. But why ISRO hasn't opened its door to the commoner? Thank you.
Well, we have only one launch complex, and they are busy with pushing up the rockets almost every month now. Now, the point is, it is a secure area. Some hazards can take place, etc. So we have to have the safety measures, everything in place. And only limited people can be there in the launch site. Earlier, we were not doing that. But now, ISRO has opened up and selected groups of students in the Space Week. They are allowing them to go to the space centers. And also, recently, some 2 or 3 students have been taken for the launch and so on. But India is a large country with about maybe about 300 crore people want to see that. But we cannot tackle all those things. But on a selective basis, certainly we can do that. So those people who want to get into space arena, they have to go through some of this quiz competition or essay competition, which what ISRO conducts in the Space Week. And those who come toppers in that, they will be exposed to these facilities and the launch. But more than that, every launch is televised. The DD National half an hour before a launch event, live you can see the ISRO's launch from Sri. This no other country does it.
So I would respectfully disagree with you slightly. The reason being, I think we must recognize the fact that we live in a media-driven society today. And by nature, we do not like to beat our chests and beat our drums saying that we have done such a great job. Fact is, ISRO is a shining light of success technologically compared to all other organizations in India. But it is hiding its light under a bushel. It has not leveraged the media to explain the intricacies, the successes, these are the visual images or the experiential learnings which the youth will get by actually smelling the kerosene during launch, shall we say. And this will leave a lasting impact.
It's a very good suggestion. I think Dr. Shivan the other day was discussing with this topic. Soon we will have an ISRO channel, a dedicated science channel for the space activities, and that will be coming up. Until it is launched, I cannot commit for that. We will do it soon.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, it's absolute honor meeting you both, sir. So it's our childhood dreams to meet you people. So my question is that you have said "Sare jahan se acha Hindustan hamara," and it's deeply engraved in us, sir. I would tell my next generation that Rakesh ji said this to our next our honorable PM at that time. So my question is, when would we truly become Sare jahan se acha in terms of the space research type? Like we would be above NASA. People would say ISRO above NASA in one breath.
Well, a difficult comparison. See, we don't want to compare with others. We must have our own goals. See, for example, Dr. Sarabhai, when he started the program in the 60s, he said we should be able to be self-reliant in this high technology. Use this technology for the benefit of the common. We did that. In fact, in 2005, we took a all India level review, high level committee and all. And every dream or actions what he listed, we have completed. Now, what next? That we have talked out a program. In that, one of the important elements is the man's. Then comes the recoverable and reusable launch system, which will reduce the cost of access to space, and so on. So we have our own path defined, and we are on the right track now, and got touchwood, we have been successful too. Our launch vehicles have shown to the world we can have better than 95%. Others, NASA, Russia and all, when they started, they were hardly 60%, 70%. So we have really established a benchmark. Now we have to go a long way forward. We will do it in time, and maybe, I don't know, if space continues, I am also hopeful we'll have our own, at least a robotic exploration of Mars by 20.
Yeah, I think just to add to what Sir has said, really, we must go our own way. That's what we have been doing up till now. And there's no competition. Competition kills you. You want to ape and improve and become better than somebody. What next? Here, if you do your own thing, you can keep raising the benchmark every time you achieve the previous self-imposed benchmark. And I think that's the way to go. And if you recall, almost every Prime Minister, when he's speaking on a world stage, has referred to our national ethos, which is Kutumbakam, yeah, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that we are all one. And what ISRO has done for the common Indian people, wouldn't it be nice if India does for the region? And then that ripple will move out, and finally, indeed, space technology can be leveraged for the greater good of humanity. Then only will peace prevail on earth, and then everybody will say, this is ISRO's model, India's model.
We have made a very small beginning in that, a communication satellite which is useful by the SAARC countries. That's the first step which you have put forward. So that you can cover entire South Asian region, and other nations as well can benefit out of this.
Yes, happy birthday, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Actually, I'm very much happy to be in front of you, so near to you. I am not able to say that of infinity, but you are the person who spake in poetry. An astronaut who spake in poetry, Sare Jahan se acha. So that time we were rejoicing in streets, and we are telling to our generations that, see, this is an astronaut who spake in poetry. So at that time we were that much that nationalism was in our veins, blood, everything. But what do you say about the imposing nationality nowadays going on this India? Really, you should stand up in theater, you should see this. Why this country is doing this to us, sir? ഈ രാജ്യം എന്തിനാണ് ഞങ്ങളോട് ഇങ്ങനെ നാഷണലിസ്റ്റിനെ പറ്റി പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഞങ്ങളെ ഇങ്ങനെ ഉപദ്രവിക്കുന്നത്, സർ? ബിക്കോസ് അതാണ് എൻ്റെ ഒരു ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ. നെക്സ്റ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ, വി ആർ ദാറ്റ് മച്ച് ahead in this space, then why we are breaking coconuts when we are launching rockets? Thank you, sir.
Ma'am, you have asked an astronaut a political question. You will get a much better answer if you ask a politician a scientific question.
With people starving, can you really say Sare Jahan se acha right now? People are starving there. Can you really say that? Aren't we in denial mode? We are saying Sare Jahan. People are starving there. And that's a very good question. Please answer. It's not a political question. Please answer.
Of course it's a political question. It is a political question. Sir, let's not reduce this meeting to a slugfest. Okay, so
Sir,
what specifically do you want to know from me? You want to bring
Please
it
be
back to the
precise
fact
with your
that...
question.
Who's this? Who's speaking?
So good afternoon, sir. I have a small question. Sir, I teach science and mathematics to 60 high school students.
Let me please finish with that answer first.
Alright.
I'll come to you. So specifically, what is your question? That the money being utilized is not correct? What is the question actually? You want me to comment who is electing the kind of politicians we have? You and I. Who's electing? I'm not electing. All of us are elected. So you will get the government you deserve. All right? Not you, all of us. This is all our common problem. Okay? All of us say that there should be no corruption. Okay, but we are the first guys who will pay the cop. Everybody says, you know, this place must be clean. We are the first guys who will throw a wrapper from our car. It is us. Of course it is not right. Of course it is not right. And who's going to make it right? Don't keep wait. Exactly. We. Yeah. So that's no question. That's a statement.
Let's not make this an
About
argument.
about the starvation, you must know that India is producing food grains much more than the country needs. We are exporting. Now, the whole problem comes, as Rakesh has pointed out, because of our system. We are not able to acquire and distribute it in an equitable manner. So, who is responsible for that? You know,
All right, thank
Next
you.
question.
we have to change that system.
Good afternoon, sir. All right, good afternoon, sir. I teach 60 high school students science and mathematics, and they are first generation learners, most of them SC, ST, OBC, and they are passionate about science and mathematics. But I understand that for these families, education is the means of coming out of their economic situation. So it is extremely unviable for me to encourage, I don't know, they want to be astronauts, they want to be scientists, but a career in the pure sciences is so far away for them. It is not profitable. Moreover, the lack of clarity about such a career is going to discourage them from pursuing that, as against other things. Why do you think that's the case? And what do you think as a country, as a civil society, what do you think we should do to encourage these children to pursue pure sciences?
There are a lot of schemes by which the students are encouraged to take up the higher studies in the science and technology or in the space and so on. But in all these fields, nothing else counts other than merit. So you should know your fundas strongly, you should be able to communicate properly and appear through the competitive tests which is happening. I must point out to you one thing. National level, they have declared something like 5,000 scholarships for the science education. Those who opt for the science stream and have got a good placement, their entire educational expense will be borne by the government up to PhD level. So whether you come from a poor family or urban family is immaterial. So it is only the merit which is going to count. So if you are serious about it, pursue some of this program. Space. If you want to get in after +2, you should join the Space Science and Technology Institute at Thiruvananthapuram. There again, it's a competitive. You appear for the JEE. If you have got a good rank, you will get there. So there is a free India, and everyone has got an equal opportunity.
Good afternoon, sir. Happy birthday to you, sir. We're honored to have you here. My question is to Dr. Nair. Dr. Nair, you were at the forefront. I mean, you headed the Indian Space Research Organization, and you spearheaded Chandrayaan. But I find a paradox now. You know, you have joined a party a couple of months back, which has the audacity, the leader. I mean, and there you said you were fascinated by the development agenda of the leader, Mr. Modi. And he is the person who has the audacity to spend 3,000 crores on a statue, okay? And, you know, and then he professes pseudoscience. He says Lord Ganesha is the example of plastic surgery having been in existence in India from prehistorical times or whatever nonsense it is. So hasn't that sent a wrong message to the youth of the country when a scientist, acclaimed, accomplished scientist like you know, joins a party like that?
Well, first let me clarify, I am not an active politician. Certainly, I will come to that. One thing, you look at what the country has achieved today. We have sustained growth of 7.5% plus in the economic front. Let me complete. Then we have, you look at the, earlier we were mentioning that people are starving and things like that. How to remove the power, how to make sure people get the food grains. The schemes announced by the government are very unique. If you are below the poverty line, you will get ration delivered at your house. Third, about farmers, the minimum price is guaranteed. They were selling potatoes at 50 paise or onions at 2 paise and so on. So those people will get the guaranteed price and the gap will be filled by the government. So such schemes are very unique and forward looking. This is not only looking at the rich people, but looking at the plight of the poor as well. So that is what attracted me to the leader. Well, I think any system we introduce will take a little bit of time to stabilize. You see the next cropping season, you will find a better result. Anyway, I don't want to get into a political debate at this stage.
Thank you, sir. Next, I invite Salim NK, Media Committee Convener, to present a small token of gratitude from our side.
Thank you very much. It was a very nice interaction with...
Our next session, Newsman Tracking India in the Modi Era. Nigila Henry in conversation with Rajdeep Sardeshai. Rajdeep Sardeshai is an Indian news anchor and author. He is a consulting editor at the India Today Group and hosts India Today Television. He was the editor-in-chief of global broadcast news that included CNN, IBN, IBN7 and IBN Lokmat. He was honored with the Padma Shri by the Government of India in 2008. He got the International Broadcasters Award for coverage of the 2002 Gujarat riots and the in conflict reporting and has written extensively on regional and communal clashes for the Times of India. A published writer on Palestinian conflict, she has also reported on educational practices in Kenya. She is a blogger who writes on self-reflective journalism. We welcome you both to the 4th edition of Kerala Literature Festival. The session starts.
I don't think that Rajdeep Sardesai actually requires a lot of introduction anywhere in the country. But based on what we are going to talk about today, I'll give a small introduction, which is trending on social media nowadays. So Rajdeep is somebody who has been covering extensively very nuanced democratic processes in the country for a few decades now. And he's also somebody who has recently been called, I think, anti-national and a prostitute who has sold his soul to the devil. He's also somebody who has borne the tag of being called all these names very proudly. So in the current political scenario, Rajdeep, we constantly read